Okay, excellent connection according to the light. Oh, got a preview. Okay, then we switch over to this screen and wait for the preview to kick in over here. Come on. Okay. And there we go. Okay. There we go. We're all set. I hope you're having a good day. I need to find the chat window. Where have I hidden it? Nope. There. Okay. Let's see. Good morning from muggy Washington, D.C. How you doing? Painting lamenters and regretting life. Yeah, those little the little checkerboards. That's a pain. If that's what's going on there. Good day from Australia, Bristol, England. Let's see here. South of France. Get a little bit closer. Nicaragua, Germany, Illinois. I love 30K, but I'll be playing Horus Heresy using one-page rules. Those rules are a lot easier to use. I can understand that. Yeah. Good morning from sunny western Wisconsin. How you doing? United Nations of Hobby Addicted. There you go. Cinnamon Coffee says I really want to give those one-page rules a try. Yeah, honestly, I'm thinking about, and I'll mention this in a little while, I'm thinking about using their Grimdark Firefight rules, which are kind of basically kill teamish as far as scale is concerned. Size. Scale is a different story, of course, in our hobby. But yeah, I'll talk a little bit about that later on. Good afternoon from a thunderstorm-covered Isle of Wight. Ooh, scary. Let's see here. Markham, Ontario. Glad to make the show after having no Wi-Fi last time. Understandable. Sure. Glad your Wi-Fi is better. Let's see here. Oilers advanced the next round. My wife was watching that game last night. Hello from sunny Milwaukee. Yeah, it's very sunny here too. I'm regretting spending most of yesterday outside due to all the tree pollen. Yeah, my right eye is all bothering me from the allergies, pollen, mostly, I'm assuming. I woke up and it was all it was hard to open this morning. It was all kind of crusty. It was gross. Let's see here. Somewhat muggy South Ontario, but not muggy enough yet. Well, I guess, depends on how much you like muggy or just mug. Don't you skirmish my huge Horus Heresy. Don't you skirmish my huge heresy game. Just kidding. There's already skirmish rules for the heresy. Really? See, I haven't heard about that. Someone mentioned in one of the comments yesterday to the, what do you call it? The, I did a YouTube short yesterday. Thought I'd try that out. And I used a clip from Friday's Twitch stream where someone was asking me about Horus Heresy and stuff like that. And it happened to be about a minute long, and that was perfect because that's how long shorts are, is a minute or less. Anyway, someone in the comments was like, you know what they should do is they should make like an expansion or something like that that uses the 2018 version of Kill Team as a skirmish version of Horus Heresy, since Horus Heresy kind of uses it uses 7th edition kind of like, so it's, Horus Heresy uses an older edition of 40K. Horus Heresy Skirmish, if they were to do it, should use an older version of Kill Team. And I'm like, I don't hate that idea. I got to be honest with you. You know what I mean? That's not bad. Big fan of 30K, even the current rules, but they do work better with bigger armies, so I understand Uncle Adam's take. Yeah, I understand it. Yeah. Let's see here. Hello from New Jersey, Jonesboro, and Southern Illinois. Morning from the Mitten, getting ready to clean the fish tanks before motorcycle work. Do your fish have a motorcycle? That would be weird. Hi from Borneo. How you doing? VJ Morph, how you doing? How's tricks? Tricks are tricky. You know what I mean? YouTube short. Yes, I thought I'd give that a try. So I did one of those yesterday. I spent probably more time editing it than I probably should have, but for how many views it might get. But I don't know. It's a fun place to start. I'm learning, It's important to understand that there's a whole bunch of crap that they put on the screen, so you have to make sure you try not to put stuff underneath it, because then you can't read it. You know what I mean? Like if you're putting in text, like, you know, closed captioning and stuff like that, or anything like there's no place online right now where you can just like download a template and say stay within this area, and then, at least not that I could find yesterday. So I was kind of eyeballing it, which didn't work. But it's interesting to see how, like, if you watch a YouTube short through the YouTube app versus watching it through the web, even on your phone, it like zooms into the video file slightly differently. And so I do enjoy to learn, but sometimes I wish that people would make things easier to learn. I'm basing my word bearers tonight in anticipation. Nice. Crazy bugs yesterday. I think I lost a couple pounds to the black flies. Well, that's not good. You don't want that. Baton Rouge, how you doing? Going from Central California. Got some Wargames Atlantic Skeletons Goblins off of eBay yesterday. We'll spend the day making some bad guy grunts. Nice. Those are fun models. I like those. Let's see. I can't wait for my business trip next week to be able to finish some Black Templars. Best hobby time is the afternoons of business trips. Like if you were going someplace for a while and stuff, and then you didn't have anything to do at night, I'd like at the, at the hotel, that'd be a good place too. As long as you can, carry your stuff with you, kind of. Staying away from the hype and carrying on with my skirmish games and Blood Bowl. The reason that this all kind of came up, it was partially because of a question I asked on Friday over on Twitch. But also for me, it's like, I like the look of the models, and I do enjoy the concept of just plain old Space Marines versus Space Marines. None of this shenanigans that you get with all the weird alien folks and such like that. I kind of mentioned that in the video yesterday, I think, just being like, there's times, because I'm a casual player, where someone's like, oh yeah, this, like the haywire grenade. I remember playing against a guy one time. He came over to my house. It's a guy that I knew, and we played in the basement, and he was running Dark Eldar, I think, and he was throwing haywire grenades at my vehicles, and it was just like taking them out. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean that? And he's like, oh yeah, that's what this does. And he explains it to me, and I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of things that pop up like that. Whereas when it's just Space Marines on Space Marines, you kind of know what Space Marines do because you are a Space Marine, and and there are little tweaks here and there. And obviously, I would want, if I was going to do if there was some sort of skirmish game for Heresy, you'd want there obviously to be Legion traits that would be different. But for the most part, the stat lines would be kind of the same, because it's all basically just, dude on dude action. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. I think that to me, for some reason, that makes me happy. But I don't know that they have any plans to actually do anything like that. So I may have to, if I decide to actually build and paint, a small number of the Horus Heresy dudes for that. Like if they were going to try to make it for, so if they were going to make Horus Heresy for the current version of Kill Team, and they're going to make some lists and just put them out in probably White Dwarf. Let me think. Probably right now a list is basically you get one fire team of, like, let's say intercessors. These guys are probably closer to TAC Marines, so you'd probably get maybe 8 or 9 in a list, like a sergeant or something like that, and then some other dudes. That'd be about it. So it wouldn't be a ton of models. Like, honestly, buying the new fancy schmancy big honkin' box, though it is surprisingly cheap, would still be way more models than you would ever need, unless you were sharing with, like, 3 other friends, if you were doing some sort of skirmish thing. And then, I don't know, pitching the rest of the stuff on eBay or something. I don't know. Oh, hang on. We're having, hide user on this channel. Thank you. We got no moderator Matt today. He's doing a thing with his dad, and so I will have to keep an eye on the chit chat as far as the porn bots and such, which is fine. All right, watching this on the TV, but if I queue up a short, it'll disconnect. Weird. Blood Bowl has no terrain, right? Yeah, no, I don't think so. No, it doesn't have any terrain. But my Space Marines would be better if they move fast. Well, sure. Let's see here. Cruel winds of outrageous fortune prevented my Participation. I don't know why I'm having trouble with that word lately. In this week's Gaslands game, being depressed ever since. Cursed you, yard work. Yard work is dumb, and I'm against it. I just like that Horus Heresy is a source of beakies. It's true. It's definitely the case. Sunny Junction City, Wisconsin, doing some airbrush priming. I'm going to be doing some of that later on this afternoon. I playtested my Demon Evolution game yesterday. Last Thursday was fun. Nothing evolved, so the premise of the game might be lad. Well, you know, that happens. You said dude on dude action and the spam bots were activated. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. That's weird. I think it's 6-man kill team squads now, so I could see Horus Heresy doing 10-man to keep it interesting. Well, like if it's intercessors, it's 5, right? Is that what? I don't remember how many, because I guess I never looked at to see how many attack marines, because I was like, why would I go attack marines? I think Primaris look cooler, just because they're tall. I don't know. Proportions make me happier for some reason, whatever. So when I was thinking about maybe doing something with new kill team Space Marine wise, yeah. With the new ones coming out for the Morlock, it's Morlock, isn't it? There's no L in there. I think it's the Morlock box, which is a crazy name, for kill team, where it's Trader Guard versus the Phobos Marines or whatever. I bet you the Phobos Marines, because they're kind of more like scout intercessors, sort of. They're like lighter armored and whatnot. If intercessors are 5, I bet that a list of Phobos dudes might be, I don't know if they've published this yet. It'll probably be 7 or 8. Well, maybe 6. 6, 7, or 8 probably is how many you'll get. Probably closer to 6, I would suppose. 6 or 7 models in a fire team. And you just probably also, I'm assuming, just get the one fire team, because that seems to be how it works with the Space Marines. Greetings from Wexford. How you doing? Move my mic a little bit. Working on making breakfast, still not awake. I understand that. One point I heard Horse Heresy instead of Horus Heresy, and suddenly gaming is totally different. I think if you could get like 3D printed like resin like horse heads and put them on your Space Marines, that would be like, but they would look like those rubber masks that you get like on Amazon or whatever. They make you look like a horse. That would be hysterical. I got Warcry Red Harvest as a gift. It doesn't come with the core book. Is it essential? What other books do you recommend? It comes with a book that still allows you to play the game, but it is not the core book, which means I don't think it has, and I don't have Red Harvest, but I know it doesn't come with the standard core book. It comes with like the core rules, but it is not the core book, which means it doesn't have a lot of the big fancy campaign stuff. It has campaign stuff that I think just relates directly to Red Harvest, but I don't know that for sure. Like I said, I don't own it. Otherwise, the only other books you really need, in my opinion, like if you really wanted to play a lot of the campaign stuff, you could look at getting the main core book. On the other hand, you could also potentially wait, because obviously they've announced that they're coming out with something new. So there may be, we still don't know if it's a new edition coming out this summer or this fall. They've changed the logo. That means something, I assume. I mean, that's what they did with Kill Team when they made the new editions. But they didn't say a new edition last week or 2 weeks ago, or whenever that was, the Warhammer Fest. So you might just want to stick with that for a while. Now, if you have some Warhammer Underworlds figures, then you might want to get the Toma Champions 2021. You might just want the Toma Champions 2021 anyway, just because it'll have a bunch of stuff, and then there'll be eventually, I'm assuming, a Toma Champions 2022 or maybe a 2023. But that's a pretty decent book, especially if you have some Warhammer Underworld stuff, because then you can turn that stuff into Warcry warbands as well, which is very cool. I'm doing that currently. I've got Zarbeg's Gits, not all of them, but 5 of those models, and then 3 of the Rippa Snarlfangs, and I'm making that into 1 Gloomspite Gits. I think it's about a 995 point list, and that's what I've been painting on Twitch just recently. Stupid pollen. Still got my Marines from Prospero Burning and Betrayal at Calth. Now I have a reason to bring them back out and start collecting them again. There you go. See? Have you heard anything about Magic the Gathering doing 40k themed decks? I mean, they did, or they were gonna. remember hearing about it. I don't know anything about it because I don't really play Magic, but I do know that they were working with Games Workshop and there were going to be themed decks that were like Magic, but for reasons had Space Marines. I mean, they've already done it with like, I think they've done it with Godzilla. They're doing it with Magic is doing a bunch of different weird themed decks with a bunch of other properties, licenses and such. It's I don't know what that is. What about Zone Mortalis for Horus Heresy? Is 1,000 points too big for you? Yes. I like literally want... I generally want at the very most 15 models in my entire warband. I would generally like to go smaller. You know, when you're playing something like Imperial Guard or whatever, then you're usually looking at, I don't know, 12 to 14 models sometimes. Well, actually, I don't remember what Imperial Guard is now with the new one. My old Imperial Guard for Kill Team 2018 was usually 12 models. But because of the way that the difference is now in the list building, you know, you'll have some... Every once in a while, you'll have something where they'll be like, well, you can either take 4 of these dudes or you can take 2 of these bigger dudes or something like that. Depends on the list. But generally, the list is the list and everybody's running the same amount of models. They may be able to tweak different specialists, for lack of a better word, but only with the new, more bespoke lists. The compendium lists are pretty much, hey, take 5 guys and there you go. Or maybe take 10, but that's about it. So... Finally figured out how to change my YouTube name to match my Twitch/Discord. Nice. How you doing, Automaton? Horus Heresy galloping into a GW near you. Nice. Let's see here. Good morning from Harlington, Texas. I had late night playing Rifts RPG. Oh, I remember Rifts. Oh, yeah. With my son and grandson. Nice. Wish there was a game you could play with just a handful of models available in the starter paint set. That could be interesting. I mean, there's not, but there should be. You're right. I mean, you could make something up, obviously, or use, again, you know, something like one-page rules, or Space Weirdos would work fine. Planet 28 would work fine for that sort of thing. There's a lot of little games out there that are inexpensive and easy to use that you can easily slip your Space Marines into, and they will work just fine if you want to go down that road, for sure. Let's see here. Remember having to organize the pre-order collections for the last 2 Horus Heresy boxes. So glad I don't work at an FLGS for this one. I can't take the flashbacks. No, I can understand that for sure. Ossified is 8 versus 8 Heresy. I'm not familiar with Ossified. I'll have to look that up. There was some people that said also in the comments on that video that I did yesterday, that short, that said that there was some people working on... excuse me, working on some stuff, some sort of like skirmish games for Horus Heresy, and but there were no links or anything like that, but I'll have to look up the ossified thing to see what that is. But yeah, that's a fun word. It reminds me of the Osiark Bone Reapers that I painted for Kill Team. Let's see here. Excuse me. I love painting models and owning a bunch, but I can honestly say I so much prefer to play games that have small amounts involved, much easier to keep track of and to transport from place to place. Yeah, well, there's that too. Certainly there's the logistics and such, you know. I think for me, the reason I like skirmish games more, beyond the fact that it is it's fewer models to buy, fewer models to paint, fewer models to transfer and carry around, and generally also a smaller board too, so you're not having to take as much space as well when you play or whatever. I think it's just a little bit more... It's like I'm, and this is going to sound dumb, I'm identifying a little bit more with each model, whereas if I have 50 models, it's just, I'm just pushing them out there, and, you know, they're just peeling them away as they get damaged. But when there's a little bit more character to having fewer models, at least in my mind. You know, excuse me. Jesus. I build, took a pill this morning for, you know, pollen and all that stuff. I don't know if it's kicking in yet. Anyway, so the concept basically is that, you know, kind of like in games like Malifaux, where most models in your small group have a name, not just like this is, you know, admittedly there are some, you know, there's punk zombies and there's this and there's that, you know, but you also have this person, you know, who has a name, you know, a first and last name, and this person is so-and-so, the so-and-so, and you know what I mean? So you have characters a little bit more than you just have troops. And I like doing that kind of stuff in that type of gaming personally. Didn't realize the ridiculous number of models needed for an army in Horus Heresy until Discourse explained it. So much plastic crack can't be too healthy. I mean, again, if you like big army games, then that's cool. I mean, there's a reason why people get together and play Apocalypse. It's because they love even bigger army games, and they have lots and lots of models, and they've been doing it for years, and so they're like, hey, let's do this. And that's cool too. But there's also people like me out there who would like to play a game where it's like my 4 models versus your 5 models, or my 4 models versus your 6 models, or my 6 models versus your 4 models, or whatever. I mean, I think that's fun. Really looking forward to Cyberpunk Combat Zone. Oh, that's the one from Monster Fight Club. That's also a small skirmish game. I would like to do a demo of it. Maybe this year at Gen Con? Yeah, maybe. A Shattered Legion's skirmish force for Horus Heresy would be a lot of fun. Each model being from a different legion. Sure, I could see that. Also because of the amount of plastic crack required for Heresy, don't be amazed when the salty Heresy players come out because you're trying to use Primaris as Heresy models. What? I don't know why you would use Primaris as Heresy models. I mean, the new Heresy models are tall, but not as tall as Primaris from what I've seen, but they're taller than they used to be, I think, right? Ossified is a fully finished Heresy rulebook PDF with all the legions. I can post the rulebook PDF here if needed. No, don't do that. It's 158 pages, fully done to GW standard. Is it a, what do you call it? A skirmish game or something like that? JP Got Rockets, how you doing? A little bit more RPG out of the skirmish experiences. I mean, like a scotch, just a little bit. You know what I mean? But yeah. I used to be a wargamer, but then I took a frog to the throat. Yeah, tell me about it. Jeez. I totally get it. I prefer Kill Team myself because I can delve into flavoring out my little squad and move to a new faction. Yeah, that's the other thing too for me. Again, is that it's that buffet thing where I can do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I can do some Necrons, and then I can do some of these folks, and then I can do some Sisters of Battle or whatever. If we're talking, let's say, Kill Team, or for me, more likely these days, Warcry. You know, I've got Stormcast, I've got Night Haunts, I've got Bone Reapers, I've got Slaves of Darkness, 2 different Skaven war bands. I'm currently working on Gits. I know I'm missing a couple, but yeah, I've been enjoying being able to kind of go around and do a lot of different stuff with those things. Hello there from Slovakia. Howdy. I have a dilemma. Could you help me advise? Should I start in Horus Heresy or wait for the squats? I don't have budget for both. In that situation, it would depend upon which rule set you might like better. The squats will be basically for 9th edition 40k, whereas the Horus Heresy stuff, of course, will be for Horus Heresy, which is to some degree kind of like 7th edition 40k. So if you prefer, in that situation, I would probably think about which one you like playing better, like which of the 2 rule sets, and then go from there. That's my opinion. Just discovered Dracula's America, and I love it. It's just 6 miniatures per side, the poker card-based initiative, and a perfect excuse to field my Mexican posse. Nice. Yeah, Dracula's America is it's from Osprey Games. It's a very interesting concept about basically Dracula. Right around the time of the Civil War, Dracula gets chased out of Europe and comes to America. And I believe he kills Lincoln and then puts the entire Congress like under his thrall, like this, like that. And then I think turns most of them into vampires, and then he gets to become basically president for life. So now Dracula's the new president of America, and he's immortal, and that's a whole thing. And so there's vampires all over the place, and government, and all that kind of stuff, and all over that's the whole thing. So it's but it takes place. It's like nearly kind of Old West kind of style because it's like, you know, again, Civil War era. So it's an interesting concept. It's a really super interesting concept, and the book is really nice looking and everything like that. It's Osprey spent a decent amount of time and money on that book too, and that one I don't remember if that's that. I don't think that's Joe McCullough. I don't think so. I don't remember who. Well, maybe it is. I don't think so. I can't remember who made that one. But then Silver Bayonet, that one is Joseph McCullough. And that one is also from Osprey. And that one is about basically skirmish, Napoleonic, paranormal stuff like that. You've got like, the skirmish armies of Napoleonic dudes fighting against, I don't know, werewolves and whatnot. And that's also a super pretty book too. It's really well done. Let's see here. In theory, you can't just use normal Marines for Horus Heresy as long as you don't use Primera stuff. I don't know, maybe. Have you played Dead Zone? Also, any thought about Mantic's new large skirmish game Firefight? I've not played Dead Zone. I have owned the last 3 editions. Still haven't played. Firefight, large skirmish. I saw them talking about Firefight recently and everything, and I'm looking at the number of models, and I'm like, that's not skirmish in my mind. It's not maybe full-blown big army game like, say, 40K or Warpath, their own game, but it's more models than I was interested in. Dead Zone would probably be more up my alley, but yeah, I don't know. I need to be able to sit down and read the rules. I'd love to be able to sit down and play a demo, maybe. I should have tried to. I don't know if they were running demos of that at Adepticon. I assume that they were, maybe just in the booth though, so it wasn't like a full blown game. It was just like, here, we'll show you how like a turn works, which is something nonetheless. 30 models is about my army size limit for a game, but usually more like 20 or 18 is perfect depending on the game. Yeah, I mean, everyone's got their own number. For me, it's 15 or under, closer to 10, if not more than or less than that. You know what I mean? But yeah. Any tips for how to get friends playing the 40K? Like, I got 2 armies, but for some reason they got some kind of dislike and presumption this game is for kids, not grown-up men. I mean, if there are some people out there that are just not interested in playing tabletop games at all, they just don't like it. And it can be for lots of different reasons. Sometimes they might be like, oh, I'm basically playing with toys, for kids, and I'm not a kid. I'm a grown-ass man or whatever. I mean, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, those people you probably can't reach, the person needs to be interested in the concept of tabletop gaming and having fun. And some people don't like fun, or some people's fun is very different than the fun you and I might have. And that's fine. But yeah, like you can't, you can lead a horse to water and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough. If you've got somebody who's interested in tabletop gaming, then there's definitely ways to get them sometimes into, especially if you've already got 2 small armies or whatever, and they don't have to really do or buy anything, and they can just, play and be like, this is interesting. At least you've got now somebody to play with, even if they're all basically just using your stuff, which is fine. But if they're like, no, I don't want to do that because it's, I'm an adult. Well, okay, that's cool. There's not much you can do about that, unfortunately, I don't think. Let's see here. Ossified is literally kill team rules, but a full expansion book for it. For Heresy, same special rules, etc., but new equipment and gear and units. Is it for Kill Team 2018 or Kill Team 2021? That's a question I would have to ask. Didn't I already kick these people out? Maybe not. All right. Next weekend here is a holiday weekend, Victoria Day. Probably going to get both Gaslands and Battletech games in. Going to be nice after missing out the last 2 weekends. Nice. Whoops. Let's see here. I'm painting Chaos Cultists for Paint Club. I've got Primaris Assault Intercessors to paint, Glaive Wraith Stalkers half painted. God knows how I'll finish all of this. I mean, it's a bunch of stuff, but you'll get it. Dracula's America is a cool concept. The Weird West thing has a lot of potential. Yeah, there's a bunch of different types of games out there that are kind of Weird West. I like weird anything, like weird World War One, Weird West, weird World War Two. Like Empire's Fall, like Conflict 47, that kind of stuff. Let's see here. Has Horus Heresy been stated that it's similar to 7th, or are people just inferring that because of the templates and 18-inch rulers? Those have been around since 2nd or earlier. Well, I mean, it's always been, like, the previous version was basically just 7th of Horus Heresy. I don't know if they would have, I mean, maybe they've modified this new version a whole bunch, but I don't know that they would. I mean, I guess it's a possibility. But in general, like the older versions of Horus Heresy have always been basically 7th. And by older, I mean like over the last, I don't know, 5 years. Primaris is easiest to get your hands on right now. Where do you get Firstborn stuff? You mean like Tactical Marines? I mean, you can still buy Tactical Marines. Any advice for painting Hot Wheels cars for Gaslands? If you can, I would probably take a little bit of sanding paper to them before you prime them. You would want to like definitely like rough up the surface and then prime them and then paint them from there. They are Hot Wheels type cars, Matchbox cars, all that kind of stuff. They've got a very glossy kind of surface to them, and primer may not stick to them as well as you might like. Also, sometimes those cars have like decals and stuff stuck to them, like stickers basically. And if you can try to get those off somehow, that's not a bad idea. That's also helpful. But definitely starting with some sandpaper to kind of rough up the surface makes a lot of sense. Kill Team needs a more basic starter box. Chaos Marines versus Space Marines. 10 to 12 models for $50 to bring a lot of new players in. I mean, they have a $100 starter box, right? They've got that starter box that comes with a full set of Death Corps of Krieg, or whatever they're called, Veteran Guardsmen, and a full set of Orc Commandos. I don't know if it has any terrain, but it's like $100, I think, $99. It's basically like the Octarius box, but with less stuff in it, but still has the, the two armies in it, the two full sets of those armies or forces, kill teams, whatever. So that would be maybe in that area, but not $50. Part of the issue is that when they build these sets, they're building them for a specific number of models. So like, you mentioned, how did it say? 12 to 10 models. I mean, 12 to 10 models. Here's the thing, $50. If you were saying 10 to 12 models per side or all told, because it would be difficult for them to do just 5 models per side, because those sprues have a tendency to come in sets of 10 at that size, Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, stuff like that. Again, in comparison to the Death Corps of Krieg folks, like I forget how many models come in that, 12, 14, something like that. So for them to be able to, like, let's just put 6 in there, they would have to basically probably make a whole new sprue, or else maybe be able to cut the sprue in half, but then what do they do with the other side? It's a whole thing. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. What about old epic scale? Lots of minis, but takes up a lot less room. Yeah, I've never liked epic scale. I don't like... The only time that I'm interested in a really small scale game is if it's small scale, but then the things are big. Like Battletech makes sense to me, but you don't usually run like people. You might run some tanks or some helicopters, or maybe even those little elemental dudes, like where you get a bunch of them on a base, like 5 of them or something like that, 4 or 5 of them. But yeah, I've never liked it because it's hard to paint that scale. Again, the mechs are bigger, so it's not as hard to paint them, but like the little tiny like elementals and stuff like that, they're really hard to paint. And same with like, that's why one of the reasons I did not like having actual infantry in my Flames of War is because they're just real hard to paint. I don't know why. Some people are like, oh, they're easy to paint. You just go, there you go, color, done. And that's fine. But I don't know. I'm fussy, I guess. So there you go. For me, 6 to 8 models feels ideal for a skirmish game. Yeah, I can see that. If you've not played Dead Zone by TMX 2023, I'll run it and teach you. I mean, are they gonna have a new version out by then? Like, I think that's... we rag on GW a lot about, like, how the constant churn, but this is the 3rd edition of Dead Zone, and I feel like I'm surprised at how fast they keep cranking out the new versions of Dead Zone. The rest of their games, they don't seem to do it as quickly, but Dead Zone, like, I remember buying the second book and going, okay, cool, the second version, nice, all right, great. And then all of a sudden the third version came out, and I was like, I haven't even really cracked the first version yet. Now, admittedly, I'm not, this is not my driving force, is trying to get this specific game played, but I am sort of surprised how quickly that they've done that. I don't know if they're just taking a page out of GW's book, which, people do. I mean, obviously it's working relatively well for the folks over at Games Workshop. But yeah, no, I would assume they wouldn't by 2023. I'm being a bit facetious, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, there's a video from Arbiter. Is it Ian? Arbiter Ian, which explains what models, Space Marine specifically, can be used in games of Horus Heresy. It might be worth a look if people are interested. I mean, you can use whatever models you want. I know someone will tell you, no, you can't. You'd be like, yeah, you can. You can use whatever models you want. It's your game. You can put dinosaurs in it. It's fine. Now, if you want to like follow the rules, then there are specifics. I get that, but remember always, at all times, you can use whatever models you want. Has there been a missing persons report done on Nick yet? No, he's just been in the sunroom. He's over in the sunroom, doing he's sunning. Mantic was not running firefight demos at Adepticon. I wanted to get one as well, but it did not come in time. Oh, I didn't want a firefight demo. I wanted Dead Zone, is what I was looking for. Grown-up men can do what grown-up men want to do. Who cares what anyone else thinks? I mean, I agree. Let's see here. Dracula's America sounds interesting. My group's currently playing Etherfields. That name sounds just slightly familiar. Crazy and fun game, but I'm not seeing my group move to Horus Heresy if it moves to Skirmish. Yeah, no, I can see that. Someone before asked, I saw someone before asked if I'd heard that Corvus Belli is making a fantasy game, and yes, I actually chatted with Carlos from Corvus Belli at Adepticon for quite a while, and he couldn't tell me much about it, unfortunately, but I am interested in finding out more about it. I tried growing up once, didn't like it. Worst 15 minutes of my life, so here I am. Yeah, no, I get it. Let's see here. Do you think any of the Osprey war games aside from Frostgrave stand out as games that should get more traction? There are so many. I think that to some degree they sort of throw things at the wall to see what sticks, which is fine. That's kind of to some degree what those blue books are. They make those blue books like Zona Alpha, that I talked about that recently. But they like Gasland started as one of those blue books, and then it sold like crazy. And then they were like, oh gosh. And then they eventually made like an actual hardcover called Gaslands Refueled or something like that. Oh, I think I was hearing a fleecy parade. But yeah, so, but sometimes they just put something out there and it sells what it sells. There's that too. A Billion Suns. They are doing a new version of Lion Rampant, so that must have gotten to a point, and it's not a blue book version. It's like a fancier, full cover version. But Dragon Rampant, I don't know if they're going to do that. Excuse me, allergies. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to see. I don't know what else I wish they would do something a little bigger with Zona Alpha, frankly, because I like that game a lot, so. I'd like to try one-page rules with Dead Zone's 3-inch cube movement. I should probably play the game before tinkering with it, though. Well, My mother tells me to stop acting childish and grow up. I think I'm very mature by enjoying what I love. Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to grow up, so I'm okay with it. Ossified is for the new kill team. Oh, okay, gotcha. Some people think that it's fun to spend $200 getting drunk every weekend. Seems a waste, but that's them. I prefer to spend $200 last month for some models to paint over a couple of months, my thing. Yeah, I mean, people have different interests and different whatever. There are people out there who are like, oh, I got these hobbies that I like to do, and You know, maybe it's golfing. That can be expensive. Maybe it's fishing. That can be expensive, you know. I guess I want more story. You know what I mean? A little bit. Like, I don't want to go full-blown RPG generally, because I've done that in the past, and it's, I don't know. I like to find a happy medium there, but like, same with like sports. Like, I'm not a big sports person because, yeah, there's story there, but it's not, yeah, it's not the same thing. First of all, it's not story. It's what happened. You know what I mean? Like, there are people out there who believe that maybe the fix is in. I've got a friend who very much believes that the NFL is constantly like tweaking the way games work and stuff like that, so that the teams that they're like trying to build a narrative. They're definitely forging a narrative so the team that they want to win every year wins, like the Super Bowl or whatever. And they do things through the refs or whatever, and it's nefarious. And I'm like, I don't think that they're that smart. You know what I mean? It's something about, there's a line about don't contribute to malice what could be easily contributed to just stupidness or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. But yeah, so I don't know. It's interesting. If I'm not mistaken, they bumped all Space Marine teams except the regular tacticals up to 6 models. This means that they all now have 6 models. In Kill Team, or what are you talking about? Currently reading On Guard, planning to tweak the rules to use for my Highlander minis. Nice. That's the other great thing about tabletop gaming, is that you can just be like, hey, these rules are sort of cool, but not quite where I want them. I'll make them different. Have you looked at Zone Mortalis for Horus Heresy Skirmish? I've heard the name. I don't know anything about it. I do know that you needed you used to need, from what I understood, like very specific Forge World terrain on a big board with lots of hallways. I don't know if that's the same thing or not, but maybe it is. Fill your pockets with gravel. Walk with your car in your pocket for a week. What? I don't know what that means. Sorry. Let's see here. Creator clearly put a lot of effort into the rule set. Is that ossified thing that people have been talking about? Whatever happened to Dust 1947? I own a few miniatures. Seems to have disappeared. So I think the company went out of business, unfortunately, which sucks. And I don't know if it's related to the pandemic or if it was something else. But yeah, from what I understand, I think the company went out of business. I enjoy the old Deadlands Weird West. Oh, yeah. I had a friend who owned like all those books. Magic sets are called Universes Beyond. There are 4 100-card decks: Tyranids, Necrons, Imperium, and Chaos, with 3 secret layers, which will have orcs in as well. Oh, that's kind of cool. Are the Anvil Industries Trench Fighter body parts compatible size-wise with the plastic Deathcore of Krieg figures? Looking for a good way to build out the rest of the options from the Kill Team starter set. That I don't know. Probably not. I've never heard of anything from Anvil Industries. Anvil Industries stuff is very modular with their own stuff, to the point where I even just read something literally a couple days ago that they're like, the resin stuff that they will sell you and also their digital stuff that you could print yourself, those parts are even compatible with each other. But I don't know that they're compatible with GW stuff. They don't come across to me as one of those types of companies. There are companies out there who make bits so that you can, like, and they design them specifically so they're like, oh, well, now you can customize your GW Space Marines or whatever. Here's a bunch of parts. You're obviously going to use these for Games Workshop. Anvil Industries has always come across to me as a company that's making their own way, which I like. And so their stuff is compatible with themselves. Like if you buy a set of like AK-47 gun bodies, kind of, they will fit into the arm, because the arms for the models will have the stock sort of built in, and then there's like a modular thing where like the front part of the gun kind of just snaps. There's like a divot in the hand, and then that way you'd be like, oh, this guy's got an M4, this guy's got an AK-47, this guy's got a shotgun or whatever, and it's just always the same arm and the parts go together that way. And the thing that's cool is you'd be like, oh, I'm going to put this gun on a cultist, I'm going to put this gun on a private military contractor, I'm going to put this gun on it. Like there's a lot of modularity within the stuff, that all the different things that I've purchased from Anvil Industries. But And like I said, I've also heard that this stuff is also modular with their print on demand, or their 3D printing stuff. But I don't know that they're making stuff to fit with GW stuff, which I think that's a good idea personally. New Heresy Marine boxes have 20 Marines in them as opposed to 10. Really? I hadn't heard that. I know like the big box sets comes with 40 like regular, size normal Marines. That's a lot. Hoping COVID restrictions don't stop me from touring Tokyo during my 9-hour layover later in June. Else I'll have to find someone to play a game of Kill Team at the airport. That might be hard, yeah. Or just hobby in place. That might be also difficult. Depends on what you're doing. You know what I mean? But yeah. Like, that's the thing. I would like, if I was to travel someplace, I'm like, well, I might be sitting around the hotel room. Maybe I'll bring some stuff to work on. But I don't know if I can bring like an X-Acto blade or, any kind of, like a lot of the tools. I don't know if I could bring those on a plane. I think the best starter set, whoops, dang it. Where do we go? My goodness, I'm way behind, aren't I? I still think the best starter set overall, in my opinion, was First Strike for 40K. Yeah, that was a really good starter set. That was like $50 or $40, and it gave you basically nearly 2 armies for the old version of Kill Team. Because it gave you like Primaris versus Death Guard. It was really nice. How about Drop Zone Commander? There's really little infantry in there. Yeah, again, that scale, and it's not. That's too small for me. Firefight is the 4th version of Warpath, and each edition has switched between rank and flank and loose formation. Huh. Did someone say Empire's Fall? And I love your new glasses. Whose new glasses? These are my normal glasses. I did say Empire's Fall, though. How you doing, Lee? Let's see here. I wish there was a Star Wars version of Marvel Crisis Protocol. Well, yeah, Star Wars Legion, like, I don't know, 3 years ago, maybe, was like, oh, hey, we're coming out with a new Skirmish, version of Star Wars Legion. I was like, yes, that's what I want. I want, like, Kill Team, but with, like, Wookiees or, Stormtroopers or whatever, that kind of thing. And the Skirmish version of Star Wars Legion, normal Star Wars Legion is an 800-point list. The Skirmish version is a 500-point list, which is... And you're still pushing around like squads of dudes or whatever and all that kind of stuff, and it's just slightly fewer models or whatever. And I'm like, that's not that's not a skirmish. Skirmish would be like this, stormtrooper is going to go over here, and this stormtrooper is going to go over here, and then General Veers is going to go stand over here and hide behind this rock or whatever. And it's not that at all, which is a bummer. That's what I would like them to make. And a lot of people are like, well, then play Imperial Assault, but that's played on that's like a little board gamey, a little bit more than I would like. I don't know. I like Star Wars Legion. I just want to play a skirmish version of it. I don't, yeah. Talking about dinosaurs. Any game with dinosaurs? A friend of mine used to run a thing at an old convention that I used to run way back in the day. He would run like kind of a Jurassic Park kind of miniature game, and he was using something, some rule set that is adjacent to Song of Blades and Heroes, which is from Ganesha games. And it wasn't, was it Fear and Faith? No, that one's the one with the vampires and stuff. It was one of those rule sets though. But that's, yeah, nothing big that I know of. I mean, there's lizardmen. They're kind of dinosaurs, sort of. GW is coming out with Primaris dinosaurs next edition. Nice. Dinosaurs and Horus Heresy could get very messy. That's true. That's true. Horus Heresy in some places have the same historical accuracy thing going on. The models have to be the right regiment, and you don't have to, but you don't have to play with people like that. You're right, you don't. I agree. Drowned Earth has dinos. I had no idea. Seraphon lizardmen, Age of Sigmar. Yeah, they're basically, like I said, there's some dinosaur. I mean, you got there's lizardmen, which are obviously, lizardmen. But there are some, like, bigger, like, things that look kind of like Tyrannosaurus Rexes and stuff like that. Like Carnosaur, I think. Do you think the Horus Heresy starter box is good value for the number of miniatures you get? I mean, if what they said was true, and that it's going to be less than $300, then yeah, it's like 40 Horus Heresy Space Marines, 10 Cataphracti Terminators, a Dreadnought. Contemptor Dreadnought? I think it's Contemptor Dreadnought. 2 special character folks, and also that big Spartan tank or whatever. All of that, plus also the hardcover book and, you know, those little red whippy things for poking your friend's eyes out and all that kind of stuff. And templates, you got to have the templates. Yeah, that's and dice for $300. Like, so many people were like, that's going to be $450 all day. That's going to be, yeah, it's going to be, you know, it's a great box, but it's going to be $450. And when they said it was going to be $300 or less, I was like, the new Necromunda box was $300, and that's got a lot less stuff in it. Huh, that's a bold move. All right, well, you know. Dinosaur Space Marines, you might start with something with that. I mean, you could just get, if you could get cool like little lizard man heads and put them on power armor, just have them sticking out of the power armor, so there's like basically a lizard inside the power armor, but his head's sticking out. That'd be pretty fun. I just love the concept of taking power armor and just putting like weird heads on them. You know what I mean? I think baby heads would be hysterical. I don't know, maybe not. Let's see here. Blue 9, how you doing? Osprey will be releasing Xeno Rampart later this year. Oh, so so there's like Lion Rampart, which is historical fantasy. Is it Rank and Flank or is it Skirmish? I don't remember. Then there's Dragon Rampant, which is fantasy, same rule set roughly, you know, modifications, but it's got, you know, wizards and dragons and whatnot. And then Xeno Rampant, I'm assuming, must be like sci-fi, which is cool. Not sure why I just said bless you to Uncle Adam, like with my mouth and long as well. I appreciate that. Personally torn between buying the Horus Heresy box and buying the Middle-earth strategy battle game. I can understand that. Horus Heresy. Ooh. See, there you go. Good dinosaurs. That's pretty cool. Sports is someone else's story, not my story. That's a good point. Like, my wife is a sports fan, but I don't get it because I'm like, I'm not invested in what's going on here because I'm not helping. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just watching other people play, which to some degree I do, I guess, that with Twitch. I'll watch other people play video games. So I guess that's maybe more along those lines. But to sit there and get like really invested in my team, I'm like, are you playing? You're not. It seems like you're just. I mean, I don't know. Anyway. Maybe if you cheer really, really loudly, then they'll win better. Yeah. But again, I don't disgruntle. I don't disrespect someone else's like of sports and stuff like that. That's cool. But it's not for me too much. Is there a sport that I like to watch? No. No. Not one that I could think of, as it turns out. Like, hockey's okay, but I don't know. Sometimes it gets real boring because it's just a bunch of guys just taking shots and missing all the time. Because, I mean, that's the point. I mean, not to miss, but obviously it's the point of the other team to make it so you do miss, and it's a whole, I don't know. Basketball is slightly more interesting because there's not a goalie. I don't know if I probably should not talk about sports as not really particularly being a sports fan. All right. Never attribute to malice what can be adequately explained with stupidity. That's basically what I was trying to say. I just wasn't remembering it properly. Let's see. Coming back into 40K from the start of 7th edition, what's the best way to get back into it? For 40K? Well, I mean, there's a new version of 40K coming out next summer. Probably. Again, I'll take that bet. If someone wants to bet me $5, it's not going to happen. I'm pretty sure the new edition is going to come out next summer because it's been 3 years since 9th edition came out. So 10th edition will probably come out in 2023. I don't know. I would start by watching. Honestly, I would start by watching some YouTube videos. There are YouTube videos out there that'll say like, hey, so you're interested in getting a 9th. Here's what you need to know, that kind of stuff. I would maybe start there and then maybe see if there are people playing like events or tournaments or stuff like that nearby that you could go and even just watch, maybe ask questions sometimes, that kind of stuff. That might not be a bad idea. Found a happy medium between RPGs and war games was incorporating my models into RPG sessions with terrain. Makes it easier to visualize, more engaging. Sure, I can see that. Let's see here. Wargames Atlantic miniatures look a bit more like GW if you want to build an Imperial Guard kill team. Yeah, I can see that. Dust stopped printing new stuff because they couldn't get anything from China because of the pandemic. Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, GW is trying to nip that in the bud by moving. I think they're moving their book printing either to the UK or to the EU, but not China anymore. And I think they're doing the same with because their regular models have been being made in their plant there in Nottingham for a long time, but like plastic terrain kits were still getting made in China, and now they're moving that back to either, again, the UK or the EU, so that they don't have to worry about shipping containers and all that stuff nearly as much, if at all. But from what I understand, they're still having a hard time getting like the cardboard boxes, not the brown cardboard boxes that things get shipped in. But the, like if you buy like a box set, if you buy like, I don't know, one of those box sets where there's 2 armies in there and like a book and all that kind of stuff, like the Horus Heresy box, like that would come in, or the box that the new Necromunda came in. Those boxes are still being produced in China, and that's a bit of a bottleneck right now. And that's with a multi-billion-dollar company trying to figure out how to fix this issue. So Dust was not a multi-billion-dollar company, and so yeah, that's it. I've been saying for a long time, and this is nothing against the Chinese, certainly, but I've been saying for a long time, getting your stuff produced on the other side of the planet could have some definite ramifications. Before, those ramifications were just late product or product that sometimes went missing, and that kind of stuff. And now, obviously, we've seen the much more extreme version of that. So, there we are. Does Dracula's America have its own minis, or am I thinking about another game? They do have metal minis. They don't have any plastic minis, but there are some metal minis that Osprey makes for Dracula's America. But you can use, again, kind of anything sort of Wild Westy or just with vampires, that kind of stuff. That's pretty cool. Now that the last few codexes are being released, do you think GW will jump to 10th edition, or will they release updates to 9th, 10th edition versus 2 or 9.2? Oh, I'm sure that they'll make a 10th edition, and it'll be next summer. I'm sure of it. If you want a Napoleonic game, you're best to check out Wargames Illustrated's content and just find one of the dozens that are out there. Sure. It's a common drug dealer tactic. First hit is free for cheap, then raise the prices on the following plastic rack once you're addicted. There you go. Yeah. I'm wondering if the new Lord of the Rings TV show will spur interest in the Lord of the Rings miniatures game. I wonder if they'll make new stuff based off of the show. Like, do they... Like, I don't know how GW views the license. I don't know how they look at it and go, these days, and go, well, we need to make more stuff. We would like for this license to end. Like, I don't know where they're at with the license these days. I mean, they've had it longer than I thought they would, frankly, but Vesk minis from Starfinder are lizards in power armor. I can confirm. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I can see that. That's pretty neat. Let's see here. Tend to watch the sports I either play or used to play. Same with games on Twitch. Yeah, I remember having a conversation with a boss that I had years ago. He was talking about his grandson was watching, Minecraft all the time on YouTube, and he didn't understand why he's watching other people play video games. And I'm like, but Mark, on any given Sunday, you're generally watching football, right? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, did you even play football in high school? And he's like, no. And I'm like, your grandson plays Minecraft, so he's basically just watching other people play Minecraft like you're watching other people play football, but he actually plays Minecraft. You didn't play football, so it's like that. And he was like, it's fine. So did you get that $5 from Sam yet? Are you waiting till the new Warcry comes out? I mean, we still don't know if it's gonna be a new edition, whether it's just gonna be a box. Like, So for those of you who don't know, if you didn't watch the video, Sam and I did a video about we've done a couple of videos about Warcry. I think in the second video that we did a Warcry on my channel, he bet me $5 that there was not going to be a new version of Warcry this summer. It was either this summer or this year, and I keep forgetting to go back and look, but either way. So I said, I'll take that bet. No, I don't want to take $5 from him. Because I kind of don't want them to make a new version of Warcry. I like the Warcry rules pretty much the way they are. So there are possible options here. Maybe they make a brand new version of Warcry that is just as much of a ripping off the Band-Aid as going from 2018 to 2021 Kill Team was. Totally new everything. You got to get all new books and the whole deal. That would be dumb, but they could do it, Another option is they come out with a new version of Warcry that is backwards compatible. You don't have to change anything about your armies. Your books are still good. The Grand Alliance books and all that kind of stuff. It's just adding new stuff to the rules to make it a little bit more in depth, or maybe even just tweaking things or whatever. That could be what they're doing this coming summer, hopefully. Maybe not. I don't know. The other thing that they could do, and that's almost kind of what they're doing with Necromunda. Out of all their bigger games, they're generally all on a 3-year schedule, specifically the biggest ones, which we've seen over and over and over again, Age of Sigmar, 40K, Kill Team. But Necromunda came out in 2017, and they have not come out with a new edition yet. They've come out with new big boxes, and they've added stuff like this newest book, which I have right here, as a matter of fact. So the Ash Wastes book, right? This is basically the Necromunda rules, but it's also added in some vehicles and some other outdoorsy stuff and this and that. But it's basically the same game. They've just added stuff to it. And they did that with Dark Uprising. They've done that. So it's not like they're making a new edition. All the old stuff still works. They're just adding on to it and tweaking it and stuff like that, which can have its own problems. But it's maybe what they're going to be doing with Warcry. Now, if that's what they're going to do with Warcry, where it's going to be backwards compatible, and it's not really going to be considered a new edition, then I don't think he owes me $5. Maybe I don't owe him $5. We'll see. I don't know. Because that's the one thing we hadn't thought of, is if they just sort of incrementally kind of do it, kind of like they've been doing with Necromunda. Or I'll just give him $5. I don't know. It's hard to say. But yeah, I'm thinking less and less. I think that they would be really dumb to make it like they did with Kill Team, where there's like a compendium and all your old stuff is moot and you have to start over and all that kind of jazz. That seems like a terrible idea. So hopefully they won't do that. Hopefully they'll do more of a thing where they're just like, all your old stuff still works. And we've added some things, like, because there are little things here and there in in Warcry that would be nice to fix. So if they just came up with rules that fixed some of that stuff, and added maybe new campaign stuff and added this and added this, but then yeah, you'd be like, oh cool, I want to upgrade this book, but I don't need to go and redo all my armies or my my war bands and all that kind of stuff. That would be great. That would make me very happy. Let's see here. GW's trying to employ all injection molding operatives in the East Midlands from people I know who run plastic companies. Yeah, I mean, I could understand that, sure. If the one thing that we get from the pandemic is more local production of goods, I'll be a happy camper. Yeah, no, same here. Adam, have you tried any of the new versions of Mantic's game, like Firefight? I like that they include the rules for every faction right out of the box for the entire range. That is the thing that I like quite a bit about what Mantic does, and I think that it would be great if more companies did that, frankly. But I have not, no. Hello from Germany. How you doing? This is why I'm excited about more miniatures being produced in the U.S. New thermoplastic stuff is really exciting. Yeah, that COcast stuff is really cool. Relatively inexpensive machines in comparison to like full-blown up injection molding. The molds are incredibly cheaper in comparison. I mean, you have to make them more frequently, but when you're talking about a mold that costs $10,000 to $50,000 in comparison to a mold that costs about $300, I'll make a lot of those $300 molds, in comparison, and that just makes a lot of sense. But you're seeing companies like Monster Fight Club, from what I understand, Corvus Belli is going to be moving into it. Warlord is moving into COcast, or already has. I think Rivenstone is going to be done all in COcast. I should really paint that guy. It's a noisy bird outside. The CEO of the COcast gave me a model when I was in Reno for the trade show thing, and it's one of the like undead models for Rivenstone, I believe. It's from Broken Anvil, so I think it's from Rivenstone. I'm assuming it is, but anyway, I've built him. I haven't primed him yet. I should do that though and paint him because he's cool. A lot of the Rivenstone models, I look at them and they're not like my aesthetic, and I just kind of like, eh. But at least this undead dude, he's like a skeleton guy, like in a big like cloak, and he's got like 2 daggers, and he's kind of cool looking. I like that model more than many of the other models, so that's pretty cool. How many pages of rules would you expect to get from a $10 game? 64 pages of rules. That's roughly how many pages of rules in Reign in Hell, the game that Vince and I made. And that's a $10 game. Unless you buy it printed, then it's $15 plus shipping, but yes. Who's this mini related by preparing to order a set of disc golf discs with the Tyranid logo on them? Cool. I mean, they'll be very, very unique. That's pretty cool. And the Tyranid logo is roundish, so that makes sense. Neat. I didn't know you could get stuff custom put onto discs. That makes sense. The Matsuden in Death Zone, Firefight, Warpath are lizardmen in space. I saw something, I don't know where I was, but I came across, there's like a group for Warpath / Dead Zone called the Mazon Labs, Mazon Labs. And the model that I saw, I'm like, well, that's kind of a cool looking model. And then I went onto the website and it's just not there. There's no, like, I can find mentions of them a little bit in Google, but there's nothing on the website for Mazon Labs. And I was like, well, that's weird. I don't know if they discontinued it, if it's an old group. I'd never heard of it before. I don't know. As a little brother, I don't understand how anyone enjoys watching other people play video games when they could be playing them. I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine. Back in the day, this is mid-90s, mid-1990s, I bought a PlayStation. I saved up money from something, and I bought a PlayStation and a couple of games. One of them being Tomb Raider, the original Tomb Raider. And I was living with these 2 guys, 2 friends of mine, and we were roommates. That's how that works. And our friend Sean, one of the roommates, Sean, would sit and play, cross-legged in front of the TV on the floor and play, Tomb Raider. And then Phil and I would sit on the couch and watch Sean play and be like, well, go over, what's up? Go up by that. No, to the left, that kind of thing. And every once in a while, Sean would be like, when do you want to play? And we'd be like, no, we're having, I don't know. And it was a thing, but we would rather watch Sean play than play ourselves. And there's obviously people that are not into that. They're like, no, I want to play by myself, and that's fine. But there are plenty of folks out there watching Twitch who are like, yeah, I want to watch somebody else play. Now, admittedly, with Twitch, I think a big thing is personality. There are folks out there that I have seen who play, let's say, a first-person shooter. They're known for very good first-person shooter player, and they have, I don't know, 500,000 followers on Twitch. But they have, and then there's another guy that I watch sometimes, and he plays lots of different types of games, but including first-person shooters. He's not necessarily known as a like high-end pro player or whatever, but he has a great personality and is great with the chat, interacts with them a whole bunch. And he has like, I don't know, 150,000 followers. So we got 500,000 to 150,000 followers. The guy with 150,000 followers usually is running between 9,000 and 10,000 subscribers. The guy who has 500,000 followers is frequently running around 2,000 subscribers. So you've got 10,000 on a guy who's got 150,000 followers versus 2,000 on a guy who has 500,000 followers. And I think a big portion of it is personality. I think there's a lot of people out there. There are some people out there who are amazing players who don't get a lot of interaction with the people and the subscribers and all that kind of stuff because they are maybe a little dead fish. Like they're good at the game, but they're not interesting to listen to, and they don't interact with the audience very much or whatever, that kind of stuff. Personality goes a long way. Oops, sorry, I clunked the mic. It just does. So that I think that helps. GW are currently teasing a product that is very likely a year away, which is kind of weird, wild, but I guess that's the crowdfunding model that other sectors like board games now. I haven't heard about that. GW could go back to old school plastic bags with cardstock foldover. Victrix did this a few years ago. It could be a callback to the old days of historical games. I mean, they could do it on something specific for a specific reason, but I think they're going to stick with boxes. The reason a lot of companies go with boxes is just because it's easier to put them in other boxes. It's easier to put them on shelves. If GW all of a sudden was like, hey, we're putting everything in plastic bags, you know, putting a little staple thing at the top, then a lot of stores would be like, well, we have to reconfigure our entire walls now because we had everything set to be on a shelf and now you want us to put them on pegs and hang them. That's a, you know, so I get it. But building cyberpunk bases for some old Shadowrun minis from the 80s. Nice. Really wish GW would let editions of all their games exist for longer so people can acclimate to the rules better. I had a Every Other Sunday show, I don't know, a month ago or so, where I talked about what if they were to move things to a 5-year cycle instead of a 3-year cycle. I think it would be great, but, you know, I'm not smart. I just hope they keep supporting Warcry. I mean, they showed off on, was it Friday last week already, or was it 2 weeks ago? I don't remember anymore. But when they had Warhammer Fest, they definitely were like, hey, we got new stuff coming for Warcry, and they showed off some of the new models. They're going to have looks like a new box set, but there's definitely going to be more stuff coming, which is great. I'm looking forward to it. And to be perfectly honest with you, even if they stop supporting it, I would just still play with the stuff I've got. The downside, of course, is that if someone new comes along, then they can't buy the stuff because it's not available. That is just GW being dumb about digital. They should really, really be getting into digital. When they decide, hey, we're going to stop making this thing, put the books up on digital so that you could buy them. I mean, because then people will go, hey, at least I can still buy this book and it's technically still official. They haven't updated it in 6 years, but at least I can still get it. They would just be making free money. Wizards of the Coast does it. Like so many companies, like Catalyst does it with Battle. Like so many companies, if you go through Drive-Thru RPG, Wargame Vault, places like that, there's a lot of stuff out of there from big companies that are just like, why wouldn't we put it up here? It costs us almost nothing, and it just is pure profit if people pull the trigger. Yeah, but that's not how they worked over there at the GW. Let's see here. I'm willing to bet it's going to be like Catacombs, new stuff to go along with the core rules. I didn't buy Catacombs because I don't like playing on boards like that, so I hope it's not like that. I mean, I like playing on boards, but I don't like playing on boards where it's like, oh, and here's the ledge and you can't go past this part. I'm like, I'm going to put terrain on this board is the thing. Like a lot of times when Sam and I play, he brings a board that he made, which is like textured and got stuff on it and whatever. And then I bring my terrain or he brings his terrain and we play on that. And yeah, you can play on a mat or a board and that's fine. Even the mats and boards for like Kill Team and for Warcry are fine because they're just, here's your zone that you're supposed to be playing in and we've put some artwork on there. That's great. But even something that's 3-dimensional just makes it even a little bit nicer. I kind of like it. What do you think about new rule to Warcry from Kill Team about melee fights? Honestly, I don't want to make Kill Team, no, let me just back that up. I don't want to make Warcry more like Kill Team because I think that they should be separate. Kill Team is based off of the Warcry rules and they just tacked more stuff on. I think that the Warcry rules are good the way they are for Warcry, and I would hope that they kind of keep them like that. There's little things to tweak, but I don't think that that's it. The Salty Sea channel on Warcry is convinced that this new box is definitely a new version. Obviously, we don't know. Hoping it's more an iteration on the base rules for the environment. I mean, I would like to see it be both, maybe, iteration for environment, but also, like I said, like there are some armies that can just blow you off the board, mostly with shooting. And I would love to be able to see, like, some way to mitigate that a little bit. That would be a nice thing to add into the rules. There's little things here and there. I note that a lot of casual players want GW to slow the release schedule to 4 to 6 years. Basically, everyone wants 10th pushback as we didn't get to play it for the first 1.5 years full of lockdown. Yeah, I can understand that too. I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they're going to do it at all, but yeah. Even with the new Warcry, you can continue playing the old one. Certainly, yeah, absolutely. You always can. That being said, If you want to play with folks at your local place, you know, your local game store, if you want to play in any kind of tournaments or events and things like that, then you have to play generally the new one. But you amongst your friends, yeah, I got a friend, we still play first edition Star Wars X-Wing. We never upgraded 2.0. We just keep playing the old version. And you can totally do that for sure. Push back 10th by a couple of years. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Oh, for God's sakes. I'm assuming they're just changing the name slightly or something. I don't know. I love your channel. You're my favorite ASMR content out there. Well, then you're not listening to a lot of ASMR, but I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Like, I think I've always seen the ASMR, you got those weird microphones that have ears on them. I don't even understand what that's all about, but there it is. Let's see. Hey, 52 Miniatures, how you doing? Hope you're well. I have some allergies today. My right eye is a little watery and weird, and I had a frog in my throat before, but it seems to have passed. So, but I hope you're doing well as well. I figured the new Warcry was an expansion moving out of the 8 points to explain moving away from it being central about Slaves of Darkness. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if they're just changing it because they're like, well, if we make a new edition, we might as well change where it happens. They might do that just so that they can make the terrain look different. I will probably still use the original terrain because I love it so much. It's just so great. Definitely before the end of the summer, I have to build, because I have another set of the original box. I don't have the entire original box, but one of the viewers, one of the Patreon supporters and whatnot over on the Discord, Uncle Adams or regulars, I was talking about how I wanted to hopefully eventually find the box again, just because I wanted the terrain. And one of them reached out and was like, you know, I have the terrain, I'm not going to use it from the original box. Do you want to buy it? So I paid them and they shipped it, and that's awesome. So I have another set of the original terrain from the original Warcry box, and I want to paint it differently and build it differently, and I got to make sure I get that done before the end of the summer/fall, so I can at least rattle can it outside and then paint it over the winter if I want to. I like to do plastic terrain kits with rattle can as opposed to doing them with airbrush, at least for the priming. Let's see here. If they change the Warcry melee rules to the Kill Team melee rules, I'd be out of that quick smart. It's possibly the worst part of the rule set. Yeah, I don't like what they did, frankly. That's the thing. Like I said, I tell people Kill Team rules are basically just Warcry rules with extra stuff tacked on. Some of that stuff is not great. Like the fact that, because basically in if you're shooting or if you are doing melee in Warcry, you are using the same kind of stat line, sort of. You know, there's a range difference, but you're basically just like, oh, okay, well, this thing gets 3 attacks, so I'm throwing 3 dice, I'm hitting on this, and this is my normal damage, and this is my crit damage. That's what they used for shooting in Kill Team, and then the melee combat in Kill Team is kind of this back and forth weird sort of thing you should roll for a while, and I don't like it. But yeah, so let's hope they don't do that for sure. That would be a pretty major screw up. How do you keep track of all your stuff? Not well, as it turns out. Kill Team needed a totally new system, in my opinion. Warcry needs at most a tidy up and maybe some tweaks. If it gets a new edition, hopefully it's a revision, not a radical change. Yeah, same here. I think it would be really, really smart of them to make it so that your all the stuff that you've already done doesn't go away. If I see a compendium come out for Warcry that's like, oh, here's the new thing, and it's all different than the old things, then that's gonna suck. So yeah, I really hope they don't do that. How's the beard? It's fine. It needs a trim is what it needs. Mighty Monsters is the Ganesha Games kaiju fighting game based off Song of the Blades and Heroes. Yeah, I don't think it was that he was running. I forget which it was running, but it was definitely a Ganesha Games, and he was using it to make like a like it was velociraptors versus people, like, you know, kind of like, again, you know, like your Jurassic Parks. Whenever I hear Corvus Belli, I always think of Melvin Belli, the lawyer who played a monster on an episode of Star Trek, the old series, or original series, whatever. Huh. Dynamic Discs and Discraft has custom discs, but it costs more. Well, that makes sense. How many pages of Rain and Hell are core rules versus content like scenarios and units? I don't remember, actually. Scenarios and stuff probably is a third of the book, maybe a little bit more. Maison Labs are in the Star Saga board game box. Oh, weird. Okay. All right. Gotcha. Let's see. Speaking of others watching, we need more Cat Police. Do I have enough cables now? I think. Yeah. I finally found these like HDMI switchers that work pretty nice, and they're very small and relatively inexpensive. I've had to buy 3 of them because they're like splitters where it's like, so I've got over here, I've got either PlayStation 4 Pro or PlayStation 5, and then you got a splitter and there's a button on it, and then it goes down to one thing, and then it goes to, is that then going to go to the TV, or is it going to go to the capture card? But the capture card also needs to sometimes be showing the PC and not the, so there's like 3 different splitters, and there's a bunch of little buttons. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of cords. But I'm getting closer, I think. I know that it's working. I mean, I did get the PlayStation 4 working again recently, I don't know, about a month ago, maybe less. The internet. Oh, that's the other thing too, is I also have to, I have another switch, like not a Nintendo Switch, but like an internet, you know, like a networking switch. I had a 5-port before, and now I've purchased like an 8-port, something like that, because I ran out of ports. So I need to unplug a whole bunch of things, then plug them into something else, and it's going to be a thing. But yeah, that's it's heading in that direction. And here we could get good vermin and dogs for Zona Alpha, not really wanting to 3D print them. As far as vermin, like if you're looking for rat swarms and stuff like that, WizKids, they're unpainted models, the ones that they do, you know, the ones that are pre-primed or whatever. There's a couple in that set, I think, or maybe is it Reaper Bones? It's one or the other. And I've picked up a couple of those. It was either the stuff for WizKids or else it was Reaper Bones where I picked up some rat swarms. As far as dogs, I mean, there's lots of different things you can do for dogs, but you can use wolves too, you know, or something like that. With COCAS, would you consider making roaming monsters or something for the games you and Vince describe? Obviously, you want to keep miniature agnostic stuff, but I was curious if it interested you. I think if we were going to do anything, it would probably just be 3D printed STL stuff. So we would sell STLs. I really, 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 really don't want to have a garage or something like that full of models and then have to ship them out to people. I would way rather work with like My Mini Factory and then make it so that if we were going to do something like that, people could then buy it and download it from them, and we would get paid. I understand that limits us because there's a lot of people out there still that don't have 3D printers. I mean, technically I have one, but it's not set up yet. But if you're making a model agnostic game, then it wouldn't make sense for us to make a line of miniatures, just full stop, just because it would be incredibly expensive just to get the thing sculpted. I mean, even getting, you know, STL sculpted is not cheap, but at least then when you're done, you're kind of done. You know what I mean? Once that process is done, boom, you upload it to My Mini Factory or whomever, and you go from there, and that's great. But then having to, you know, because like Lord knows we wouldn't buy a CO casting machine. Those things, though inexpensive for normal businesses, for us, this being our third job, CO cast machines are at least 80 or 100 grand or something like that, and you'd have to put it someplace. Probably runs on 220 or so. It's a whole thing. So yeah, no, I mean, we could work with another company who has a CO casting machine and like rents it out or whatever, or, you know, like there's going to be companies out there that are going to be like, we'll buy the equipment and then we'll cast the stuff for you, you know, so you don't have to own the equipment. And that's fine too. That's great. That's what I want to see. But yeah, still, I don't want to have to mess around with that stuff. Moderator Matt is not here today. Nope, he's doing some stuff. Boop. Speculation, they are moving Warcry out of Chaos Focus so that they can use it as an avenue for small warband mini releases and wind up Underworlds. Could be. Could be. How do you clean an airbrush between the nozzle output and the paint input? Sorry, I don't know official names. What I generally do is I don't ever really let my airbrush ever get dry. When I am done airbrushing for the night, you know, I put some cleaner in there and spray it out, and put some cleaner in there, spray it out, put some water in there, spray it out, take the airbrush apart, and then the main body of the airbrush and the like 2 nozzles in the front, I usually then put them into water so they stay wet all the time. And then when I come back later, I take them out of the water, like, you know, a week later, 2 weeks later, whatever. So they stay submerged all the time. So paint can't dry on the inside of your airbrush if it never gets dry on the inside of your airbrush. That's the way that I do it. That's my personal preference. But, you know, other people do it different ways. But yeah, I like to keep my airbrushes just wet all the time. That's just the way it works. Let's see here. I got lucky, found an original box of Warcry at Hobbytown last year. Nice. That is a good box. I like Warcry because there are no saves. Yeah, that is kind of nice too. It does definitely speed things along. You just take damage. Just like, nope, you took damage. I hit you and you took damage. It makes sense. I recently watched Ash Barker's 2nd edition 40k battle report, and the lack of stratagems and relics made the game so much easier to follow. I might dig out my old 2nd edition rulebook. Yeah, you know, stratagems for sure, I think, have slowed, in my opinion, have slowed 40k and Kill Team down. There are kind of stratagems a little bit in Warcry, but not to the same degree, at least it seems. There are some, but not too many. And I like that. Like, I don't want to have 0 stratagems, but man, it seems like there's a whole bunch in specifically 40k, but also in Warcry or in Kill Team as well. Do you suspect there will be for Warcry? Do you suspect that there will be specialized teams for existing factions, much like Kill Team, Sisters, Novitiates, Veteran Guard? I mean, they have released box sets for Warcry with Age of Sigmar stuff in it, but it's just been stuff that they've already had out there. So, like, you could buy, there was a Gloomspite Gits box that said Warcry on it, and it just had Gloomspite Gits, like several sprues from a couple different, you know, kits that they already been making. Same with Night Haunts, Cruel Boys, stuff like that. So they've done that already, but they've not sculpted anything new for, like, let's say Night Haunts to use with Warcry. I think they got around that to some degree, at least this year, with the Tome of Champions 2021, where they just decided, well, heck, now you can use all your Underworlds guys and use those in Warcry, and that gave you a whole bunch of new stuff to play with, which is what I've been doing. I've been really enjoying that. I am, like I said, I'm working Gloomspite Gits right now, and both of those, that war band is made up of 2 different groups. Some Rippa's Snarlfangs, which are Underworlds, and some Zarbag's Gits, which are also Underworlds. And then I'm going to do a Soulblight Gravelord list that's going to have Crimson Court, like all 4 of the models from the Crimson Court in that, and then some of the Sepulchral Guard. So, yeah. It's funny to hear the Kill Team melee complaint, because I love the melee rules in the new Kill Team. Good, different strokes for different folk. Yeah, no, it's definitely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's not for me, but other people are like, no, this is very cool. And that's why you got to have lots of different games out there, in my opinion. Star Trek is dead. It is going the way of Doctor Who. I don't know what that means. Was there a Star Trek game you're talking about, or what? Just got back from England, was in Nottingham, not for the event, ran into John and Midwinter. Small world. Oh, that's cool. Wow. Yeah. Because you were at Adepticon as well. That's pretty cool. Is the Raptors versus the People game called Clever Girl? No, there probably should be. Let's see. Speaking of cables, did you ever get around to looking at the NDI stuff I recommended? Yeah, I was doing that for a while. I was using the NDI stuff when I was running, let's see, what games did I do NDI for? I did NDI for when I was running that Dark Future game for a while on Twitch. And early days when I was running Battlefield 2042, I was running it off of NDI. And it was working okay. It was kind of, I don't want to say it was crushing my network, but it was a little issue-y. Yeah, it was okay, but it worked out. I mean, for not having to do much, it actually worked great. For not having to like run any new wires or mess with a capture card and stuff like that, NDI as a technology actually works pretty well. That all being said, I then just eventually plugged. Well, the thing is that, and I didn't realize this. I don't know. I'm dumb. So the issue was I was running a cable from my gaming PC to the capture card, and the capture card is attached to via USB to the streaming PC. But then also an HDMI card or cable comes out of the capture card and then goes back to the monitor. But then that caps your monitor at 60 frames a second because the capture card can only do 60 frames a second. It can't do 120 pass through. So I'm like, well, that's a real bummer. Well, as it turns out, also my video card has at least 2 video outs. So I could just send one directly to the monitor and send another one to the capture card and then just not have to worry about the pass-through. And I didn't even think of that. I'm just like, well, I got to use the pass-through on the game. But like, no, as it turns out, you don't have to use the pass-through if you don't want to. You could just, if you've got 2 HDMI outs, you just do mirrored and it's fine. So yeah, that's making things better now too. So. Oh, for God's sakes. Hide user on this channel. Let me see. Hello from Sweden. How you doing? Greetings from Tinley Park, Illinois. Doing lawn work and then setting up my new Ender 3D printer. Nice. I need a splitter that works with 120 hertz 4K. Yeah, that's the hard part. I'd settle for STLs of your games. I mean, the biggest issue right now is trying to find a sculptor. That's the issue. Because anyone who's a good sculptor is already doing it for a living through like Patreon, or My Mini Factory has got their own kind of Patreon called Tribes. And so they're getting supported, you know, whatever, $8, $9, $10 a month from people who want all these, you know, different STLs, and they're cranking out new STLs every month and all that kind of stuff. And then you come to them and say, hey, I'd like to pay you to do some commission work. And they're like, no, dog, I'm cool. I don't need to do that right now. I have all the work I can handle doing the stuff that I want to do and not have to mess around with your, you know, goofy ideas of, can you make the gun more knifey, you know, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I totally understand why it's hard to get a sculptor right now, but that is also a problem, not just, you know, a thing. You ready for Gen Con events, bro? I haven't even looked at it yet. Am I ready? No, let's say no. I don't know. I'm trying to think how many events I did last year. I think I went to a couple of seminars. I don't know. I'm going to take a look at it, though, for sure. But it is today. I knew that. Need to clean my brushes? Sure. Do you listen to any hobby podcasts like you did? Do I listen to any hobby podcasts? Not too many, honestly. I have not come across a lot that I'm really like, oh yeah, I like that a lot. I don't know why. I think I've gotten into a situation where I'm listening to, like, I listen to very few podcasts, but they're either history or true crime. That's about it. I don't know why. I bought a deck of the Death Guard Stratagem Guards, and going through it honestly turned me off to playing Warhammer 40,000. Yeah, I know. There's a lot there. You know what I mean? People said 8th edition 40k really changed the game a lot, but I found it to be a simplified version of 2nd edition. I understood it straight away and really liked it. Oh, that's cool. I missed 5th edition Grey Knights. They were a thing, all right. Let's see here. Like to the chat here. Is TMX happening this year? Any COVID cautions that we need to take? I mean, it's happening. I am probably the next week, hopefully going to get some straighter answers from the university on that. Right now, like, I don't think that they have any restrictions. So I need to double check on that. I know that in general in the United States, the numbers have been on a little bit of an upswing, but as far as cases, not deaths so much, but yeah, I don't know. Gen Con event registration goes live in 30 minutes. Let's see here. I enjoyed 7th edition Grey Knights. Turn 1 nullification was a good time. It could definitely backfire, but it was better than getting tabled by Eldar before turn 3. Yeah, it's another reason why I'm not super interested in the big kind of army games like that. Finding sculptures is extremely rough right now. Thinking about going back to it myself for mercs. Hey Oz, how you doing? Yeah, I mean that's the trick, isn't it? Is that finding sculptors right now is real difficult. Patreon and tribes are a great living, and they get to work on whatever they want. It's great. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like I said, when you are working with an art director, someone like me, and you're like, hey, yeah, I like the look at this, but could you change all of these things? You know, that kind of stuff. That, as a person who is a creative and who has to sometimes work with people like that, is just like, ugh, it's just disheartening. But when you're like, hey, I'm going to make a bunch of cool stuff that I like, and then people who like the work that I do are going to pay me $8, $9, $10 a month to get access to these files so they can print them at home and paint them and do them and use them for whatever, all that kind of stuff. That's a very cool thing. And I really like that that's working out well. But as an art director, it's making it incredibly hard for me to be able to find someone to do sculpts because they're all just like, no, I'm good. I got plenty of work. Literally 3 years ago, those folks were all begging for work because they were 3D sculptors, and really the only customers they had for the most part were, you know, game companies who were going to make their stuff out of plastic. But now because you know, well, maybe it was more than 3 years, 3 or 4 years, but nonetheless, 3D sculptors, if you can get into 3D sculpting, it's not a bad idea right now. I'll tell you that right now. Moonstone, Rivenstone, Stonestone. There's a game you haven't tried yet. If it's not already come up, a guy called Ossified Mods has made skirmish rules for Horus Heresy using Kill Team 21 rules. It's got rules for different type of Marines. Yeah, someone mentioned Ossified before too. I'm interested in checking that out. Basically, my thought process is either to use something like that, to just take, you know, that would be cool. Or the other option is to go and use one-page rules, specifically the firefight rules, which are basically their version of like Kill Team. You know what I mean? You do have some little tweaks here and there in that it's different in Kill Team in that, like, well, in Kill Team, you can activate multiple figures sometimes. In this game, there are specific unit types that are designed to be moved almost like a squad, but it's kind of few and far between. Most everything in this is designed to be not done that way. It's designed to just, you know, you're moving a little bit of, you know, each guy's separate, that kind of deal. But yeah, so in this situation, my thought would be you would take probably as a base whatever setup in the army books that they have for basically what you would look at and go, these are probably tactical Marines, and then take those and sort of tweak them yourself if you wanted to make different Legion tactics or whatever. There's a lot of things you could do that way. I mean, if you subscribe to these guys on Patreon, then they have an army builder that's available for Patreon subscribers, even at the tier 1 level. So you can make your own like armies. You don't have to use their army books. You can make your own stuff completely from scratch using their whatever algorithms, or maybe not algorithms, whatever equations. And then that way the points all match up and all that kind of stuff. So you could even go down that road if you wanted to. You could start with something at a base level, be like, oh, this is, what would they would basically make attack marine, and we're going to tweak it and change it and stuff like that. So that'd be pretty cool too. But yeah, I want to check out this ossified thing. I'm interested just to check it out. Now my screen is all screwy. Button, and chat. There we go. Nope, screwed that up. There we go. All right. I've not heard. Is Horus Heresy just 7.3 worked? I mean, up until now, yes. I don't know if they've changed the rules much with this new version coming out, but for the most part, up until now, Horus Heresy's always just been basically 7th edition with some tweaks, from what I understand. U.S. Open is coming to San Diego. My group and I are going, but we're not talking about golf there, are we? Are we talking about golf? We're trying to learn nice. Oh, yeah, okay. Hey, Noob Painter, how you doing? There's a great Kickstarter mini bundle supporting Ukraine. Lots of donated mini STLs. Oh, that's cool. I should brush up on my 3D skills properly, as I could probably make a killing sculpting. I mean, I think it takes a lot of work. Like, I made a sculpture recently, an STL. Sculpture is a strong word. I made like a little tiny electrical box that you could glue to the side of a building if you're like making your own terrain. I would like to make more of that kind of stuff, but that stuff's really kind of simple because it's not particularly organic. It's a little bit more like CAD CAM than it is like sculpting a face or shoulders or hands or anything like that. That takes a ton of work, I think, personally, I would assume. But even that little tiny thing took, some time. And if you have to make a bunch of those every month, I mean, yeah, especially, I mean, if it's your only job, then you've got the time to do it. But Lord knows it's not my only job. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that it's not only just the ability to do the sculpting, but I think to be able to, to target as well, like the stuff that people are looking for. You know what I mean? That's also, I think, a big portion of it. Getting into Warcry, any cost-effective suggestions on terrain outside of the Red Harvest box? I mean, I was going to say there's some GW stuff that would work pretty well. That's like Age of Sigmar oriented stuff. Maybe not necessarily cost-effective. If you're looking to, honestly, if you're looking to save costs, then scratch building your own stuff, I think, is the way. In general. Depends on what you're doing, but yeah, in general. Been playing a bunch of one-page rules lately. It's been people have been happy with it not having to shell out $50 for an army book. Army Builder is great, and making new lists can be fun. Yeah, I've been hearing really great things. Like I said, I've messed around a little bit with Grimdark Firefight, which is kind of their kill teamy thing. I'd like to play it against a person instead of just messing around with it myself. But yeah. Have you ever played Marvel Crisis? I have not. I own the starter box and a couple of, I think, a Hulk and a Venom maybe, but that's all. I have not. I bought the starter box at the beginning of the pandemic because I'm like, oh, we're gonna be home for a couple of weeks, I can start working on this, and not so much. I know that my local store is really getting into it, so that's pretty cool. What do you think about getting into it this late after release? I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, they are, I think, they're making a new card set because it's the same people who, to some degree, it's technically different people than the ones that made Star Wars X-Wing, and then was like, hey, what if you had to buy a whole bunch of new cards and all that kind of stuff? It is what it is. It is sort of, kind of, technically the same company. I mean, I know it's not Fantasy Flight, it's not Asmodee anymore, it's Embracer Group, it's all this stuff. I get it. But when I just recently saw they're going to be releasing new cards for all of the stuff, and you got to buy these things, I was like, that's not surprising to me. Anyway, but yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with the rules. I don't know which direction they're going in because I don't play. I will be perfectly honest to you. One of the reasons I haven't really gotten into it is because everybody that I've talked to has talked about how the models in the starter box kind of suck to build. And that has made me go, oh, well, then I'll do something else because I don't want to sit here and fight with a bunch of plastic pieces that are really tiny that I keep dropping on the floor. You know, so I don't know. We'll see. I've heard that the newer models that have come out have been easier to build, but the initial ones in the starter box kind of suck. It's easier for me to do organic stuff in ZBrush than in hard surface sculpting. Yeah, I mean, I think in certain programs I can see that. Yeah, ZBrush and even to some degree, I think Blender would be easier to do stuff that's more organic. I was honestly, that little box that I made, my little electronic box that I made is, I think I made it in Tinkercad, which is runs in a browser, but it's very quick and simple for me to make. I started messing with Blender, and as a person who's been using graphics programs on a PC and a Mac for 25 years, a quarter of a century, Blender made no sense. Like the way you move around and do stuff. And I've used other 3D programs too a little bit. Again, like for some reason, just Tinkercad, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this totally makes sense. It was almost intuitive to some degree. Blender is a completely different, it's made by aliens as far as I can tell. People can use it and do great things with it, don't get me wrong, but the interface to me is completely obtuse, and that's troublesome for me. So yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. Let's see. Cards are free on their site. It's just errata. Oh, well, if you don't have to buy them, and then that's fine. I thought it was something like, well, I suppose there's probably people out there who would like, yeah, I would like to buy them. So, but if they're giving you the option to just download them, awesome. That is the smart move. I just saw a thing recently about new cards, and because of what went on with Star Wars X-Wing, I just assumed you had to buy them. But if they're like you can download them, that's a super smart move on their part. How big risk would be making minis shop in a small city of 30,000 people, but not many wargaming players? Do you think it would bring more people to the wargaming in general? I don't know that I would ever make a gaming store that was just minis or just RPGs or even just board games. You could make a gaming store that's just Magic and Pokemon and probably do okay if you're the only employee and all that kind of stuff. But those other ones are tough. If you're going to start a gaming store in this stage, it would probably be pretty smart to sell a bunch of different things. Because if someone comes into the gaming store and they only see Pokemon, but they don't see Dungeons and Dragons, they'll be like, oh, okay, cool. And they're going to leave. They're not going to be like, well, I guess I'll buy some Pokemon. You know what I mean? That's kind of the issue. So yeah, that's cool I'm glad to hear that they're doing that too. Like, I mean, they might also be selling them for people who like nice fancy cards and stuff like that. But for me, I'd be like, oh, I'll just download those. Thanks. I'm not gonna. Yeah, that's a smart move. I bet this Horus Heresy rule set contains some second edition mechanics. Anyone know? I don't know if they've changed it much from the last one. And if they did the last one, like I said, the last one was basically 7th. You know what I mean? I built the Captain America and Iron Man from MCP for Miniswap. They were a pain in the ass. Yeah, I can understand that too. That's what I've been reading. Tinkercad is where I cut my teeth and made some Nerf blaster parts in there. It's a great free program. It is a great little free program, especially if you're making things that are very non-organic. If you're making things that are a little bit more like parts oriented, which is like for the stuff that I want to do, little greeblies you stick on the outside of buildings and things like that, and little, things that just make scratch-built terrain look more real, more embellished. That's the kind of stuff that I want to do. I think so far the program's worked out great. Yeah. I played Warmahordes. Still, great game. Atrociously priced models. Barrier to entry is insane. Company is poor. Oh, that's a bummer. And where are we at? Okay. I found Blender so much more intuitive to me compared to Maya. I've never tried Maya. Planning to play Marvel Crisis Protocol with the Marvel United Chibi Minis, snow building, and more fun to paint. Oh, that's kind of fun. Blender is a bit mad until you get used to the controls and the UI. I used Lightwave back in the day, and it made sense. Oh, I remember Lightwave. I never used it, but I remember hearing about it. I was always like, oh, that sounds so cool. But it was crazy, stupid expensive at the time. I mean, probably still is, if they still make it. I don't know. I would like to hear your thoughts on the Silver Bayonet game. Have you played it? I haven't. The book is gorgeous. The book is really nice. I like the concept, but not so much that I have decided to head into that direction. Like, there's lots of skirmish games out there, and there are times when, at least for me, I will pick and choose because I'll be like, okay, I can play this one, but not have to build all new terrain. You know what I mean? Like, I can play this one and use terrain from these other two, or I can play this group of 3 or 4 different skirmish games, but use the same terrain and even sometimes the same models and stuff like that. And that right now is predominantly more of a sci-fi thing. So you're seeing stuff that is like barely near sci-fi, like something like Zona Alpha, all the way to stuff like Spirits Weirdos, Stargrave, 5 Parsecs, etc. I can use basically all the same models and the same kind of terrain for all of those things. But then when you say, oh, but what about if it was Napoleonic? Like, I don't have stuff for that currently. So I might be able to tweak. Like, if I start, I'm slowly starting to build some stuff for the Last War, which is like weird World War I. So I could potentially maybe use some of that stuff for Napoleonic as well. Maybe. Like, I know the time period's not exactly the same, but you know, sometimes you build a house and it sits there for 300 years. So, you have like more latitude. Like, you can take like World War II houses, like ruined kind of like Warlord Games makes some like ruined like houses and stuff like that, but they're like almost look like Tudor style houses, and you're like, well, those could be fantasy houses. Those could be from World War I. They could be from World War. I mean, they've been there for a long time. That house was built in, let's say, the 1500s, and now it is ruined in World War II. But it could have gotten ruined anywhere along the way. So it gives you nice latitude in that situation. Games that have very specific, this is the way that the stuff has to look, that's troublesome. Like, one of the benefits to the game that we did, me and Vince, was that, hell can look like a lot of different things. And we gave you a lot of latitude in the book about the different stuff, but it's a lot of just natural, it's ruins and natural structures. You know what I mean? That's basically about it. That's not too bad. Compared to GW kits, which are meant to be beginner friendly, the MCP minis are fiddly. If you've got modeling experience, the car military kits are not that bad at all. Yeah, I don't know. I've been going through some models lately from Games Workshop that I'm just like, you can tell what they're doing is they're trying to make the boxes as small as possible. So they try to make it so, like, I saw this specifically in the Necromunda box for the terrain. Like, they will make a piece that should probably be 1 or 2 pieces. They will make it into 5 pieces because then they can make it thinner. Like, overall, when you look at the sprue from the side, right? And now they can stack more sprues inside the box. If they made the piece like 1 piece, they'd have to make it physically taller on the sprue, which would then make it difficult to stack the sprues. To which my point is like, yeah, but now it takes me, like, honestly, those, like, I built a bunch of those, 3 of those, like, kind of pod terrain things from the new Necromunda Ash Wastes. The base, just to get to the floor level, before you even put on walls and roof and all that stuff on those things, is like 30 pieces. And I'm like, is this necessary? Like, really? And like, I don't know. I kind of don't like it. I don't like this, like, we got to make so many pieces so that things are super, super, super thin. Yeah. Is GW pushing Horus Heresy paving the way to boost interest in the old world? Maybe. They're very different things. I don't know. That's a good question. I love the concept of Silver Bayonet, but like most GW games, I just can't find an opponent. You got to make your own opponents. I mean, not actually literally make them. That's weird, Dr. Frankenstein. But, I mean, it's a good idea to, like... And again, because it's a skirmish game, you can do this a little bit more easily. You put together like a couple of forces, and then you find somebody who's in miniatures and go, hey, would you want to run this and try this out? You may not. There's a lot of people out there that believe I need to be able to walk into a store and find someone who plays the exact same game that I do, the same way that I do, that we can just sit down and play. And that's not super feasible, especially now, post-COVID, right? It's a lot more about trying to find somebody who's like, either to teach a game that already plays something else. Maybe they play 40K or whatever. That's fine. But you're like, hey, would you like to try this out? Or people who don't even get into, the tabletop war games yet. Maybe like my wife, she's a board gamer, but she doesn't really play, miniatures games, but she's getting more interested in that kind of stuff to some degree. And so that's cool too. So yeah, it's a whole thing. It's definitely, there's a lot of people that are like, well, the only reason the reason I have to play 40K is because when I walk into the store, that's the only game I can get out of other people. But that seems like the least amount of effort, right? So you're closing yourself off from all the other games out there because you don't want to have to be like, well, hey, I built 2 small forces and I would like to show you how to play this game and that kind of stuff. And sure, there are other people out there like, I don't want to learn it because I don't want to play 40K because for the exact same reasons. I get that too. But yeah, it's a thing. Tudor houses technically could have been built in the 1950s. This is the thing. Yeah, that is true. Favorite game shops always have game stuff I've never played or games I have never heard of. I find that as a good sign of how good a game shop is. Yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. When you walk into a game shop and it's just the same stuff that you see at every other game shop, then that's one of the issues that I have to some degree. And I'm not against them. Don't get me wrong. But like, I don't ever bother going into, well, I take that back. Once in a great while, I will go into a Warhammer store, or a Games Workshop store. But the only times I've done it in a long time, now admittedly, there's not one crazy close by me. There's one that's about a 45 to 50 minute drive away. That's the closest one to me. I've gone there maybe twice, and it was to get the specific, because it was a new store, and so they got that. She's like a Imperial Guard Ripper Jackson. Something like that is the character. She's got like a robot leg maybe, or a robot arm, and she kind of looks like she came from the movie Alien sort of, but she's an Imperial Guard model and she's cool. So I got a couple of those by going to that. But otherwise, there's no reason for me to ever go to the store because I already know what's there. It's the stuff that's on the website. It's the stuff that's at most of the rest of the stores that carry their stuff. So for me, going to the stores, going specifically to the GW store has never been an interest because I'm like, well, I know what's in there. I mean, that's the thing. When you go to an independent stock store, then you'd be like, well, who knows what might be in there? They might have all kinds of different stuff in there, that maybe stuff that I've never heard of. And I think that's a cool idea. So made my own opponent recently. He is only about a year old now, but after another decade, maybe I have someone to play war games with. I mean, that's another way you can do it. Sure. If you don't want to go the Dr. Frankenstein route, probably a smart plan. I mean, there's a lot of lead time and you don't get to wear a lab coat. I mean, you can if you want to, but other than that, yeah. For cheap, high-quality plastic historical minis, you can't go wrong with Perry miniatures. They also have lots of great metal ranges. I own some Perry miniatures, and War Games Atlantic also does pretty good stuff, too. Problem is I can buy whatever my LGS sells for 20 or 30% cheaper online with free shipping with more choice, which is a shame. I mean, yes, technically true. The reason that I try to also support my local game store is because I do like to be able to go there and play. Sometimes you want to play with someone that you don't know very well, and I don't want them to come over to my house, or you don't want to go over to their house. You don't know. I mean, they might eat you. You don't know. But it's less likely they're going to do that at the local game store. So getting together at the local game store is just sometimes really nice and convenient. And the other benefit too is that sometimes it's like Saturday at 5:30 and you have spilled your Nuln oil and you wanted to paint the rest of the night while listening to audiobooks. It's way easier to run out to a local store and pick up another bottle of Nuln oil than it is to order it from GW or Amazon or whatever. It's not coming in the next half an hour, I'll tell you that for sure. So I like having the local store. Which is why I also like to buy stuff from them. Don't get me wrong, I buy stuff online. I mean, I just mentioned Wargame Atlantic and Perry Miniatures. My local stores don't carry either of those things. So those things I end up ordering online. But if it's something I can get locally, I try to get it locally because I want to support the local stores that I go to. If it's a store I don't go to, I'm not going to support that store. I made a video a while back about why you should support your local stores, and people were like angry because they're like, well, I hate my local store and they're all bad people, and why should I support them? And I'm like, if you don't go there, then don't support them. I get that. The point is, if you want to go to the store and have the store stay, you need to actually pay for things there. So otherwise it will disappear, and then you will be, inviting weirdos into your house, or you'll be going into their house and you will be eaten. So, it's a bummer. I prefer game stores to just charge table fee. Yeah, most people don't. Most people hate that concept, and that's why they don't want to companies to do that, stores to do that. Trouble is, one of my LGSs is at someone's house. Well, then that's all bets are off. You're going to get eaten. I'm sorry to hear it, but that's the way it works. Local game shop, no waiting for shipping. Big plus. I agree. Yeah, I agree. Taught my 6-year-old to play Age of Sigmar and one-page rules. He loves playing it with me, but he has only an attention span for about 3 rounds on average. Well, that's about the same as a lot of adults I know. I understand that. All right, so I want to thank everybody for coming by today. So yeah, I am tempted by Horus Heresy miniatures because they're cool. I always like those big spiky bumpy shoulder pads and the no trim. I like that. Lord knows I could buy just a small box of them and then use them for other games, certainly. But it would be very cool to have them for something a little bit more skirmishy based. I think it would be smart for GW to make some sort of thing that they could release to get you to buy Kill Team and Horus Heresy models. They could release it for free or through White Dwarf or whatever. I doubt that'll happen. There's this... it's a word that starts with O. It's not ossified. I'm going to look that up on the Google. Again, one-page rules. Firefight might be a way to go. So there you go. I hope you folks have a good rest of your day. I'm going to try to have a good one here. It's nice and sunny out, so at least we got that going for us. We'll see you again here in 2 weeks. I'll be on Twitch tomorrow night, as per usual, Monday night at 7 p.m. Central, and also Fridays at 10 a.m. Central. I'm still working on Gloomspite Gits and having fun with that, and then I'll be moving on to something else soon after. But we'll see you folks again soon, and that's pretty much